A very good morning. So, in this presentation, I'm going to give a short talk on flow cytometry. Firstly, I will be talking about the basic principle behind the flow cytometry, then instrumentation, then what are the different types of flow cytometry and how we can analyze the results of flow cytometry, then applications, and out of several applications, I have tried to answer the fifth question, that is the does cancer cell undergo fusion with normal cells. So this was actually a paper of 2018 in Oncotarget journal. So and this question was answered by using this flow cytometry technique, more specifically FACS, by using FACS analysis. So starting with the basic principle of flow cytometry, the basic principle of flow cytometry revolves around knowing three main aspects of cell or biomolecule. And those three major aspects are forward scattering, side scattering, and fluorescence of particular cell or particular molecule. And in order to know these three aspects, what we have to do, we have to make, or we have to pass a stream of cell, a flow of cell, a single flow of cell to the path of this laser or to the part of this illumination. So like in this diagram in figure A, as you can see that there is a single flow, a stream flow of cell, and it is achieved in a way, or it is maintained in a way, that at the place of interaction or interrogation of a cell and this laser light, a single cell always interacts at a time with this laser beam. So this is how it is maintained. Now the question how we can achieve this, I will be explaining in the fluid mechanics of the instrumentation. So this is the main principle, that make a stream flow of cell, pass it to the path of illumination, and then try to get result with respect to three components or three aspects, that are forward scattering. That forward scattering is actually a measure of cell surface area or cell size. Then side scattering, that actually gives an idea about the granularity or the complexity of this cell. Firstly, talking about the FSC, that is the forward scattering. So say this is this cell here, and this is a beam of light. This way, this is a cell, and these are the beam of light. Whenever these light interacts with this cell surface, they undergo a slight diffraction, or we can say a slight shift from the actual path of the light or laser light. So in the direction, or in along the axis of the laser light, there will be a slight diffraction or slight scattering of the light, that is known as forward scattering. More the forward scattering, more is the cell size, because it is directly proportional to the radius of the cell. This was the first aspect that we can get from the flow cytometry. Next is side scattering. As we can see that more or less at the 90 degree of, with respect to the original direction of the laser light, there is a scattering, and that scattering of light is actually due to granules present inside this cell. Better to say it is due to the change of refractive index. As you can see, light interacts with the inside granule, undergoes scattering, and that scattering is taking at 90 degree with respect to the original direction of the laser light, which can be detected by placing a detector at the 90 degree of that path. So that is the side scattering, and it actually tells about how much granules are present in the cell and other complexity of this cell. So these are the two aspects that I was talking, that we can get in context of light scattering done whenever cell or other biomolecules interacts with the laser at this point. Okay. Other than these two aspects, the third aspect is the fluorescence. So say we want to know about the presence of a particular receptor, say RX receptor. This is my single cell suspension, that is the many cells are present, but in these cells not all cells are having this XR receptor. So what we have to do before allowing it to go through this flow cytometry, all we have to do is we have to treat these cells, these different cells, with fluorophore conjugated antibody, that is FAB. When we treat all these cells prior to the flow cytometry with this fluorophore conjugated antibody, then obviously those cells, among these cells, those cells that would have been expressing XR receptor would conjugate with this antibody, and obviously this fluorophore or fluorophore conjugated antibody. Now when these all cells will be allowed to pass through this stream, and say now one cell, this out of several cells, this cell when interacts with this laser beam, okay, now due to that interaction and it is having that XR, so it is having the antibody, so it is having the fluorophore conjugated antibody on the surface. Upon excitation it will release or emit the light or undergo the process of fluorescence, that upon excitation it will give out or emit out a particular wavelength corresponding to that fluorophore, and that would be detected again by the fluorophore detector, and that fluorophore detection can also be measured by placing detector at the 90-degree, because this side scattering and this fluorophore detection actually takes place at more or less at the 90-degree to the original path of the laser beam. So we can see this way for the fluorescence signal, and this way for the side scattering, and this way for the forward scattering. These all three parameters tells about the physical properties related to the side, related to the granules of the cell, FSC for the size, surface area, SSC for the cell complexity, and fluorescence for particularly for a specific protein or intracellular molecule within the cell that we want to detect. So with this basic principle of flow cytometry, now all we have to see that how these three aspects can be detected, how these cells are first maintained in a single stream, how they are excited, and how the detection is done. So the overall instrumentation actually comprises of three systems, including fluidic system. In figure A, as you can see, fluidic system. This is the system, as you can see here, this is the system that is actually responsible to maintain a streamline flow or a single flow of cell. Okay, then there is optic system that actually comprises of lasers for excitation, lasers, and then several optical filters that we will see that this optical filter actually is to neglect or to block the undesirable wavelength to be detected by the detectors. So these are the detectors. Okay, this is the detector, obviously it will be the detector as it is in the line of the laser beam, so it is the detector for detecting the forward scattering, and there would have been here somewhere here the detector for the side scattering, analysis of side scattering, that is at the 90-degree orientation like this here. Okay, we will see in detail one by one. Other than fluidic system and optic system, then it has electronic system that actually is the system for detection of different aspect. It actually converts the light intensity first into number of electrons, then it convert electrons into electric signal, and finally by ADC, that is analog to digital converter, that is converted into digital signals. Okay, now talking first about the fluidic system. in figure B, upper left hand side. This stream that I am talking, that how this single flow is maintained, this single flow is maintained in case of traditional flow cytometry. It is maintained by using a property of hydrodynamic focusing, which means our single cell suspension, or we can say the sample, is injected in the core part. Imagine a very narrow quartz tube, and that is at which our sample of single cell suspension is injected. And this a very narrow quartz tube is surrounded by, again, a tubes, okay, or having volume of buffer. So this sheath fluid is nothing but the buffer fluid, which actually remains at high speed, allow a efficient pressure on the core part, that actually maintain the single flow in the central or the core chamber. And the force applied or the pressure applied by the sheath fluid are in a way that the velocity of flowing at the center remains maximum, whereas the velocity at the wall remains minimum or almost zero. So actually there is a flow of cells in the central region of the central chamber, like this, a single stream flow, as we can see here also. This is the core chamber, the half part of the core chamber, and this is the area where sheath fluid will be applied. The pressure will be applied on the core chamber, and that will allow the single flow of our single cell suspension in the core chamber. Okay, so this is the fluidic system. Now it allows to flow. Then at this point, you can, as we can see, these are the laser, this is two laser system focused by the lens, and this is the point where actually there is a kind of interrogation of cells with these lasers. So on interacting with the laser light, these cells obviously will show forward scattering in the direction of the laser light. That will be first go to the filter. The filter will actually neglect or block the undesirable wavelength, and then finally current or the intensity will be detected by this forward scattering detector. Then at the 90-degree, there will be two events: direct event of detection for side scattering, and there is a different diachronic mirrors placed in this path, which actually reflects or provides particular light from this mixture. From this mixture of light, this diachronic mirror provides a particular light beam of light towards the different fluorophore detectors. So these are the detectors having different filters to detect different wavelength and to block different wavelength, and these are the fluorophore detectors. So this whole equipments, diachronic mirrors, laser for the excitation, detectors for the scattering detection like forward scattering detection or side scattering detectors, and other than this the fluorophore detectors and the optical filters, this actually together forms the optical system. Other than the optical system, we have the electronic signal. So once it is detected by the detector, say PMT in this case, that is photomultiplier tube. So when this light intensity interacts to one side of the PMT, it actually liberates electron proportional to this intensity, and those electron is finally converted into current, and that current by ADC is converted finally to the digital signals. So that is how, to the proportional of the light intensity, electric current is generated, and that is finally converted into digital signal, and the comparative analysis can be done by these all parameters. So this is the whole three different components of the flow cytometry instrumentation. Now, although I talked that this is the sheath fluid that maintain the single flow of the cell. But again, modifications are there. Like if sheath fluid is maintaining the single flow, it will be considered as traditional flow cytometry. Or if ultrasonic wave is doing the same function, then acoustic. And then traditional flow cytometry itself have different modifications. Like if in the traditional flow cytometry, if we have advantage of sorting the biomolecules, sorting these cells, then that traditional flow cytometry will be known as cell sorters. And if it has the ability, or it has the advantage of imaging the detected biomolecule, then it will be known as imaging flow cytometer. These are the different types of the flow cytometry or flow cytometer. Then about the signal analysis. The signal analysis meaning how we can interpret the data of flow cytometry. So as I told, there are three main parameters, like forward scattering, side scattering, or the fluorescence. If we plot any one of these three data, like in this case it is the fluorescence intensity that has been plotted versus that is plotted in with relation to the counts here means the number of the cells or the number of times that event actually occur. So if one of these three parameters are plotted with corresponding to the counts or the cell number, then this is known as one parameter histogram presentation. To the contrary, in this plot, this is the dot plot. Actually, it is showing the cells that are expressing the TD tomato fluorescence and the cells that are expressing the GFP fluorescence and the cells that are expressing neither TD tomato nor the GFP. So these two different parameter either be FCS or SCS, or FCS with fluorescence or SCS with fluorescence intensity, or in this case two different fluorescence intensity. If they are plotted together, then it will be known as dot plot. This particular is the result of an experiment that I will explain later also in the application part. Okay, so after the basic principle, instrumentation, types, and how to interpret the data, I present the different applications in short. Although explaining all these applications will not be possible, so I will be explaining this particular cell sorting part. Actually, I have selected this part because in this example, actually this is the question that has been answered, as I told earlier also, in one of the paper of 2018. They actually in that paper have tried to answer the possibility of cancerous cell fusion with non-cancerous cell. They actually have tried to give uh, reasons that why they are sure that cancerous cell can fuse with the non-cancerous cell. Although their final conclusion was much related to the genome instability, but in the first half they have tried to explain this portion that I have highlighted, and for achieving the conclusion to this particular fragment of the question, they have used the flow cytometry application, particularly the fluorescence assisted cell sorting. That is actually an application of flow cytometry. So let's see how they have done that. So this is the crux of stat paper. What they did, the question they wanted to answer, that was, can cancer cell undergo fusion with the normal cell? In order to answer this question, they have taken CRE Loxp system analysis. What they have did, they actually have used the construct of TD tomato gene associated with LOXP stop codon LOXP site, and in this case, due to the presence of stop codon, normal cell was not able to express the TD tomato fluorescence, as can be seen in the FACS analysis. 0% of this cell is expressing TD tomato. Okay. To the contrary, they have used GFP associated with recombinase CRE and B16 promoter, and they get to know that 96.2% of this cell are actually expressing the GFP fluorescence. So cancer cell alone was giving GFP, and normal cell alone was not giving any TD tomato fluorescence. This was the result they got. Now, one thing that I like to mention, in order to allow expression of TD tomato and subsequently to allow the fluorescence of TD tomato, it is very important to remove this stop codon from this site. And this can only be done by recombinase protein, that is the product of CRE gene. Okay, so this is the main crux. Now, what they realized, when they co-cultured this cancerous cell with the normal cell, after 24 hours of the co-culture, they realized that they saw that 0.55 percentage of this cell are now expressing TD tomato fluorescence. As I told earlier, in order to express the TD tomato, two important parameters are required. First, this DNA construct that was present in the normal cell, and then this recombinase protein that was present in the cancerous cell. So if this fraction of this cell, that is 0.55 of this cell, is expressing TD tomato, that will meant that these cells, this 0.55 fraction of this cell and this 0.63 fraction of this cell, are the cells that have this whole DNA construct and at least CRE protein. So these are the cells, 0.55 and 0.63 fraction are the cells that are having TD tomato DNA construct and CRE protein. But yet this result was not sufficient to answer that these fractions, that is the 0.5 and 0.63 cell that are expressing TD tomato, are the fusion product of these two cells. Because there might be one possibility that cancerous cell is actually secreting CRE protein that is going to the normal cell. So in order to actually confirm that the TD tomato expressing cell are actually the hybrid product of two, the two other results have give the two other result actually gave them a direction in that particular process. So those were, the first was in B, please see this P3 cells that is now expressing TD tomato. These are the P2 cells which are actually cancerous cell that was expressing GFP. P1 cell was these cells that was expressing neither TD tomato nor the GFP. So what they saw, that TD tomato expressing cell was having highest forward scattering, and this is again, if it has having highest forward scattering, it simply means it has more surface area as compared to the P1 and P2, that is normal and the cancerous cell, meaning this P3 is actually the fused product of P1 and P2, because it is having high surface area as compared to the P1 and P2. And also they realized the cells that was expressing TD tomato, means P3, among this P3, 100% of this cell have ability to express GFP, as we can see here. All those cells that was expressing TD tomato was also now able to express the GFP, meaning this P3 don't only have CRE protein, rather it has complete construct of CRE GFP DNA, meaning it is actually the fusion product that has received TD tomato DNA construct from the non-cancerous cell and also GFP DNA construct from the cancerous cell. And this is how the whole analysis of flow cytometry or the FACS analysis have had allowed them to actually construct this concept that in cancer the normal cell and cancerous cells may undergo cell-cell fusion to result in more genomic unstable hybrid cells. So with this, I'm already at the end of my presentation. These are the different references. Basically, the second is the main reference of the paper that I have taken. Other have been used for the diagrammatic representation. So with this, I thank you. Thank you for your patience listening.